3,500 volunteers.
Yeah.
Who manages 3,500 volunteers?
Well, it's a team. It's a team
Yeah.
of people that manages it. So, and the thing is that we have these incredible volunteers who have been there and some of them for a number of years, and then these very brave new volunteers that step into these roles where, yeah, it's, they may be working with volunteers that have done, something over and over, and now they're managing that particular area.
Where do you find a family of communities connected by the storied Mississippi River, where young explorers and dreamers, investors and entrepreneurs thrive? Where can you connect with real people living and creating in a place that's as genuine as it is quirky? QC, that's where.
Welcome to QC That's Where. I'm Katrina, your host with Visit Quad Cities, and I'm super excited to be talking to Monta Ponsetto today. Monta is the executive director of the Rock Island Milan Education Foundation, and we are talking into the holiday season. She is on the management team for Festival of Trees, which is an annual event that happens in Davenport every single year. It brings the whole community out. So Monta, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing really well. Thank you. Thanks for having me and giving me this opportunity to talk about festival.
100%. I'm excited because I know it's going to be bigger and better than ever this year, as it is year after year we see. Right. And you've had a ton of historic involvement in Festival of Trees and where it's come from and where it is today. So can I just throw it to you and have you talk about kind of your trajectory in your involvement with Festival of Trees?
Oh, yeah. Well, my very first involvement was from, I was part of the radio station, and they were approached by Karen Getz at the time. And so this goes back into the late 80s, early 90s, I guess. And anyway, did a tree, and then the next year did a tree. And then I moved away. When I came back, Karen spotted me in a department store and just, I was like, oh, you'd like to be involved again, wouldn't you? So once again, I designed a couple of trees, and then because of the spirit of festival and the people that I knew that were involved, I said, I'd like to be a bigger part of it. And so I joined the steering committee and had various roles on that. So that was back in 2000. So it's been a number of years. And I continued to design also most of those years as well.
Let's talk about your design. So you're designing a tree for this year.
Yes.
How many times have you designed for Festival of Trees?
It would probably be over 20, I don't know. Yeah, something like that. And a couple of years I did 2 designs. So just, because you do that. Yeah.
Are you an artsy person by nature?
I'm not an artist per se.
Okay.
I've sold some trees that I've done, but on my own. But I creative. Yeah, I mean, in the arts, I actually do improv for comedy sports and have been involved. Theater was my major. So yeah, all of this kind of blends all together and music and arts and etc. So
you have a lot of creativity popping in your brain. So what have you funneled that into for your design this year?
For this year, okay. Well, I will. Spill the beans.
Spill the beans.
But no. I'm just doing a tree, and I'm taking actually one of the few times that I'm taking the theme for festival, which is Peppermint Forest this year, and I'm doing a tree called Peppermint Ice.
Okay.
So yeah.
How are you displaying or illustrating the theme?
It's the peppermint red and a little bit white, but more of the clear ice. So there will be snow and ice elements with red and those types of things. So yeah, it's just kind of gathering materials that look, and then hopefully it'll all come together once I don't have anything written out or planned out per se this time. It's going to be, hopefully the creative process will take over. So
I know you have to start kind of far in advance, obviously, to make sure that it's ready.
Yeah.
I mean, does it feel funny designing, Christmas trees and holiday items like before Halloween?
Yeah, no, well, it's even way before Halloween. And if you're involved in festival, it doesn't feel strange at all, because we actually start prepping, in late January for the next festival. I mean, we have a wrap up meeting, and then it goes right in, a little bit of a break for the holidays, and then January comes around and we start putting on thinking caps. And yeah, and the other thing is the materials. So in the old days, we used to have a bus that went up to the merchandise mart, and they had all these different places that you could go to and get things wholesale or have these great deals, and that was in May. So the manufacturers, I mean, they've pretty much gotten everything out for the holidays, at least by then, maybe if not before. So we're purchasing then. And so when people go into a Michael's or a Hobby Lobby or even Target and say, why is there, for festival people, it's like, oh, this is great.
It's always like a societal grievance I notice around, when fall hits. It's like, why is there Thanksgiving stuff out already? Why is there Christmas stuff out already? It's like, well, some of the population really needs this stuff early.
I don't think it's a large part of the population, but and I think Thanksgiving still gets, it still gets kind of run over. I don't
it doesn't get its fair time. I agree.
Yeah.
So when you're designing and when you finally show up and you set up, whether it's a hearth and home or a tree or what have you, what's the vibe like when you're kind of finally seeing what everyone else has been doing?
Oh, well, the vibe down there. So the designer setup days, which are about a week approximately before festival actually opens, it's like a community down there. I mean, a lot of people know each other from being there year after year after year. It's fun to watch when things come in, and some people will roll in a tree that's nearly completed, or they'll have part of it, and then just to see how things unfold. And different people have different processes, and some people work by themselves, some people have a team, and other people it'll be a whole big group of people who are all adding and contributing, hopefully with nicely with each other. But it's so it's we're down there because we're down there from sometimes 8 in the morning to, I think we've adjusted the hours, but it used to be like 8 in the morning until 8 at night for 2 or 3 days, and just to make sure everything's done, because it takes a while unless you've done it at home and can bring it in, and that's difficult. But
it is so massive. I mean, it would take a village to set up, because it used to be a 2-day event in just one room, and now it takes up the entire River Center, which I think is like 70,000 square feet or something like that, which is, I mean, it's unimaginable if you haven't seen it, and it's really beautiful. My favorite thing, I mean, I love seeing the elaborate trees and just kind of like the overwhelming sense of like holiday spirit that you hit. But then my favorite thing is, and I hope you guys are doing it this year, I can't remember if it's an annual thing, but I love the like gingerbread village cottage, where like all the first graders or kindergartners, they make their own little gingerbread houses out of different materials, and you walk through and they're all set up kind of in like a snowscape. Oh my gosh, I love those.
Yeah, that's one of the areas where we have to do the I don't know what it's officially called. I always say the Disneyland, lines where it goes, snakes back and forth. We've had to set that up many years because people are just so excited to go in and take a look. It is charming, especially when you get one that, it's like, oh, a little 5-year-old put this together. And then you have these incredible ones that it's like, oh my gosh, and a true artist put this together, but they all work together, and it's Yeah, very cool.
I love that. That's my favorite. I look forward to that mostly because you just never know. It's always a surprise in there. You never know what you're gonna find.
Yeah, exactly. And all these things, all those types of things, are created somewhere else and then brought in. Yeah. Whereas the trees and the rooms, hearth and homes and all that, those are, that's what takes that time down at the River Center to make sure that they're all put together. And then, as you mentioned, all of the other volunteers who, there's ceiling treatments, there, all those walls that come in, carpenters that help out, mm-hmm. painters that come in, just designing, how the layout's going to be for festival this year. And that's just that room. And then have, Santa's area and all these other elements that need to come together as well. Other decor that just goes into the River Center itself. And
it's that's so impressive. Mm-hmm. It's so impressive. And, for anyone who hasn't been before, it's November 19th through 27th. So it's, mm-hmm. Over a week long. And it kicks off with a really fun parade. It's the largest helium balloon parade in the Midwest, which is a great point of pride for us. I mean, honestly, if you haven't seen it, it's so cool. There's, groups sponsored balloons and there's bands and, it's Santa's mm-hmm. there and it's just really, mm-hmm. it's a lot of fun. It's the Quick Star Festival of Trees parade. Do you have much involvement in the parade every year?
Typically it's just, being in either the steering committee cart or, marching or walking with another group that I've been a part of. So there was one year went through, because the steering committee group goes, all the way. They're, one of the first things to go through. So I got all the way to the end, and then I went and I joined the group, because they hadn't even started yet. Oh. And so I ended up doing the parade route twice. That was fun. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't think anybody noticed.
Right. Yeah. Did I see her earlier? She's not supposed to be in this parade twice. What's going on? Is there like a competitive nature at all between the artists, or is there any kind of secrecy between everybody as far as designs go?
Yeah, I think there is a little bit. There's certain designers that, do like to keep their whatever they're doing under wraps until the actual setup time. And you will see people be working on something and then you can see kind of how they're eyeballing, and especially if with the theme, if you have a theme like Peppermint Forest, or I remember the one year it was, it was not the Nutcracker, sugar plum something. Anyway, and so there were a lot of Nutcracker types of trees. And so you can have, almost the exact same design, but it's never going to look the same because it's got different, either, different ornamentation or just a different take on what that actually means. So the themes are fun because you do, it's the same thing, but brains work differently, and different artists, come up with a different idea for something. So, yeah.
And it probably helps, just like you said, kind of just branch out. Like you may have one kind of, niche or design or something, but it's like, okay, if I wanted to go with this theme, I'm going to make it, take this route or whatever.
Yeah.
And so the trees and the doors and what other kind of ornamentation is made and brought in for people bid on the stuff as they're walking through.
Right. Yeah. Well, the smaller items like the gingerbread houses, and then we have handmade ornaments. There's a section for that, and then it's called Small Wonders, but it might be a small little tabletop tree or some sort of other design that someone has done. And those can also be bid on. Stockings. We've had those for years where people put in, some of these are just phenomenal, but, embroidered or cross stitch or felt, and very creative with those, and those can be bid on. A lot of that stuff is snatched up on that first night. So the night of whatever it's called, whether it's not called gala, but usually first night or premiere night. And so a lot of people make sure to bid or grab those right from the start. But then we have the big things are obviously the trees. Wouldn't be Festival of Trees without trees.
Right.
The doors, holiday entries, which are the setup is a door and then a staircase with a railing. And so people decorate the door, they decorate the railing, and then what you would put on your porch. If you had a front porch, that kind of an idea. And so sometimes those are very elaborate, sometimes they are very simple, but those can be stunning as well. And then hearth and home. So it's just a wide, and it's a very simple white hearth that they make. And one year I did it. I did a facade over that, which had, I did an Art Deco decorating for Christmas, and it was all in that style. And so I tiled a different fireplace that just, was pushed in front of, so, because they don't want their, festival doesn't want their own things, tiled over or anything like that. And then rooms. I'm trying to think if there's anything. I feel bad if I'm missing anything, because whoever's in charge of that area is going to come after me.
Oh no!
But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of variety. Doors. Oh boy.
Yeah.
I didn't mention the doors. I would get in trouble because there are many of those. And that's a very simple thing that people can go in and purchase, because it's a wreath or some sort of decorative element that can just be hung on your front door, inside in a hallway or something like that. And there's some, again, just the creativity out there. I mean, I've been part of festival for at least 20, I don't know, 27 years, 25, 27 years, something like that. And I still walk in there not sometimes, every year and go, oh my gosh, that's cool. What a great idea. It's always different, always a surprise. And we've had things that are much, much more along the artistic line or conceptual. And then we've had very, very traditional things. So one year, this guy did this, I don't know, it was how many feet, 12 feet, 14 feet. And it was the lights that came down and created this Christmas tree, and then right next to it might be something that's very red and green and Santa and, snowy and all that. So yeah, they're just wild. And then the rooms are cool too. Like I said, I love doing rooms.
Yes. So. Yeah, those are so fun. Thinking back, in the 20 some years that you've been involved and that you've been going, do you have a favorite, decoration that you've either seen or a design that you yourself have done that just kind of stands out among all the others?
I'll probably be very, self. Yeah, a couple of them, like 4 of them. They're all rooms too. But my very first year, I did a room that was a World War II era room, and I called it "If Only in My Dreams." And the scenario was the soldiers just come back, and so it had elements of the jacket that he would have worn, and I actually had letters that were of the period, and then had photographs and stuff, but the letters were written by my husband's father back to, so he was in World War II. Anyway, so that was cool. I did one that was a toy box. And so it was just an oversized. So instead of the miniature scale, it was 1 inch equals 12 feet.
Whoa.
So it was this giant, and the tree actually turned, and it had the mirrored background, the lid, it filled with jewelry. So I, online you can find crazy stuff. And so I found these big, they look like pearls, strand of pearls and a ring and, all this, and just had, it took up the entire room space. Another one that was Peace in the Forest that had, I used theater gel that they use on lights that create different colors.
Gotcha.
So when you look and it's warm, and all that. But anyway, just use those and had created this kind of Gothic archway there were trees. And then there was a tree in the center, and a woman that I know who does stained glass, and she made a giant star, and put that right in the middle, and then other stuff around it. Did a radio station, WXMS, 1220, 1225 on your dial. Did a toy store once. The old-fashioned toy store that had all the toys in the window. So it was the door and the window with a big Christmas tree and all these toys and everything in it. And then one of the ones that I really liked, that I don't know if the general public got it as much, but it was the area like at the back of a industrial building, and it was a homeless guy. And so he had his little makeshift, almost like a Charlie Brown tree, scraggly, and just things that he'd found, and he used paper clips to hang an ornament, had the fire barrel with fake fire, so to keep him warm and stuff. And then a girl at Augustana had done graffiti for me. And so I said, I want this to imagine. I wanted John Lennon's. So she did that on the back, and then it had an old fence thing, and then it had this industrial looking thing with cautionary stuff on the one side. And in the corner with the graffiti and the other was a light. And so the idea was, here was the vision of what his tree is to him. And it was all this gold and everything. And so every element that he had found, like he'd found this, crummy little tin bugle. I had a golden bugle horn on the tree. And so everything translated, but in a beautiful way. He used bicycle chain for his garland. And I had, chain, but it was golden also. So that was one of those that just, anyway, so
that's a beautiful concept.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That was, like I said, some people kind of looked at it like, what is that all about? But it was
probably took a second to kind of take it all in and to kind of, put it together in your mind.
Yeah. It meant a little more to me and to some others too. So
yeah, well, it's nice, like, when it is such a creative kind of an abstract idea, because it kind of forces you to stop and really not just go, oh, that one's nice, or that one's nice, but really to stop and go, okay, this means something. I'm going to, I'm going to think about this. I'm going to stop and I'm going to look and slow down,
And there have been many of those. I mean, I talk about the ones that I did just because
you are more familiar.
But there have been others that have just been, either absolutely gorgeous or funny, funny designs that people have done. Whether it's something with Santa, with his legs sticking out of a chimney, trying to get down, a very elegant dinner setting with trees and all that. Anyway, but just, some beautiful.
And I think there's like over 150 displays that are arranged. It's so much work. I can't imagine. I know I was looking at the Quad City Arts and Festival Trees websites to just kind of get like a handle on the scope of it. 3,500 volunteers. Who manages 3,500 volunteers?
Well, it's a team. It's a team of people that manages it. So and the thing is that we have these incredible volunteers who have been there and some of them for a number of years, and then these very brave new volunteers that step into these roles where it's they may be working with volunteers that have done something over and over, and now they're managing that particular area. So the steering committee, I think, is usually around 125, something like that. And that's just the people who are managing the other people, the rest of the 3,375, so it's pretty remarkable. And they have all their time that's outside of the time for the designs.
Yeah.
So they're meeting with their group. The parade, that's a monster to put together, with all the coordination with the school groups and the different organizations that come in, and clowns and everything else that, that have been a traditional part of this. And then, that morning, just trying to, they're blowing up balloons overnight. And so I have not volunteered for that.
Huge credit to every single one of those, thousands of volunteers and the steering committee, and everybody who makes it happen, because it's it's not just a community event to kind of kick you off and get into the spirit, but it's a huge fundraiser for Quad City Arts. This event's been going on since the mid 80s, and over the years they've raised, I think, over $8 million for the organization.
I believe that.
It's incredible, and it's so important. Quad City Arts, for those who aren't familiar, is an organization that really just invests in the growth and vitality through celebrating art and creation of art in the Quad Cities. And if you look around the Quad Cities, you're walking around, you can see, there's sculptures, there's murals, there's tons of ways that people from, young kids to, older people, adults, that have gotten involved in the art community. And it's really just a nice, it's a nice connection for people who live here.
Yeah. And some of that money has gone into programs that go into the schools too, which is an element that I think people don't realize, that, this is helping to fund these visiting artists who go around to the schools, whether they're, musicians or dancers or poets or whatever they might be. And they're reaching out and getting to the young people. And those programs are phenomenal.
Directing the Rock Island Milan Education Foundation, you probably see that in action.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they reach out, all over the Quad Cities. So, I'm not sure of the process of how, which schools, if they sign up, or how that, how exactly they say, hey, we want to have that dance group come in and be with our students. But there's a team at Quad City Arts that, figures out who's going to come in, who can come in, and get that all scheduled, and have, performances for patrons of Quad City Arts. But then the important work of having those artists go into the school, because, there's still a lack of the arts in an arts program. The individual schools. So
it's easy to take it all for granted, when stuff like this just kind of happens in front of your eyes, but there are so many people working so hard.
And we've over the years, we've tried to make sure that that message or that connection is made, so that when somebody walks through the doors of festival, they get an inkling, maybe, they're coming for, the designs, or to make sure their child can see Santa, or go to the teddy bear tea, or see the parade. But that they know that, the money that they spend in the gift shop, if they buy an ornament or a stocking or a tree, or even just their ticket entry, that money is going for a purpose, a good purpose that's going to be productive and helpful, for the rest of the year, if not beyond, because it's an investment in.
Yes, it all stays here, benefits people here. Yes. Exactly. Thinking back, do you have a highlight moment, something fun or amazing that has happened around festival?
There are a lot of moments. A couple of them, one happened in Santa Special Stars, another one happened in Silver Bell Social, but it was an elderly couple. So Silver Bell Social is a special event for older individuals that come in from, the nursing homes, assisted care places. And this couple, for whatever reason, I'm not sure, had not seen each other in a year. And they saw each other it was just one of those where, because it's like, and so they were in two different places, just the logistics, and I don't know the personal situation, but we were able to meet up and see each other. Another instance, which I only caught the kind of the tail end of it, but it was during Santa's Special Stars, and a girl who had some needs. I don't know exactly her situation, but she didn't really speak. She didn't really engage, make eye contact. And she, I think it was Ave Maria, she got up on, there was a little platform. It was when we had Santa in the Great Hall, when you first come into that lobby area, before you get into the main part of festival. And she just started singing and had this gorgeous voice. And it was like a completely different person. And she just sang, and then she was done, and she went back to, and so these are kind of, I mean, I guess it's not directly related to festival necessarily, but just the sort of thing that, happens. It's just kind of a magical place, and then of course, kids that come in. I'm sorry, I have a cat that wants to join.
Hi, Kitty.
This is Tess. But just these magical moments, even with little kids that are coming around, and you just see, their eyes. It's kind of like seeing Santa, their eyes just become these huge saucers, because all of a sudden there's, lights and all these Christmas trees and all this stuff. And anyway. So,
yeah. Well, these remarkable moments that you kind of just illustrated are, they're definitely made possible by festival, just, in having the event available and the space.
And we've had so many fun, we've had so many different kinds of events, some that go on every year. Celebrity lunch, which is, just a blast. And that raises probably the most of any single event that we have. And it's, anybody can come to it. And we have, 20, different Quad Cities celebrities who come in, and they're sort of waiting tables. They're not really waiting tables, but they're, thank goodness, they're pouring champagne mostly, and then trying to get people to purchase things or bid on different things. And I won't name names, but one of the funniest moments at a celebrity lunch was they took two very well-known media people in the area and said, we want to see them arm wrestle. And they paid, and this gentleman who owns this business paid, I don't know, it was like $500. I mean, it was some incredible amount. And they were like, sure, they'll do it. They'll do that for Quad City Arts, songs and making other people do just goofy things, on stage. But it's very fast paced, very fun. Gift shop brings in a whole bunch of stuff that they have that they want people to purchase, just fun items. And so that's a great, and I think we've had that every year. Teddy bear tea for the little ones is just, I took my daughter to that when she was little, and that's just a classic to go to. And then we've had other, just different events that, sometimes are popular for a while, and then we change it up with something else. So Sugar Plum Ball, of course, which is huge. And that gets sold out almost immediately. As soon as tickets become available. Very popular and raises a lot of money too for Quad City Arts. So
first of all, thank you so much for your time, for coming on and talking about your experiences with festival. I hope that this encourages people who maybe haven't ventured out to come and check it out, and really, know that every dollar they spend is going to something very important to this community. I think there's 100,000 visitors that they expect every year, and growing. So you would just be, if you're coming or designing or volunteering or whatever, you're just part of this growing massive, community. So,
and they will have a great time. And there's something for everybody.
Yes. Oh, you're so right on that. There really is something for everybody, all ages, Yeah, it's a great experience. It's really, I highly recommend to kick off your holiday season. So as per tradition on this podcast, I have everybody fill in our statement. QC, that's where, and I'm going to just kick it to you. QC, that's where.
Wow. QC, that's where you can get the benefits of living in a bigger city, the amenities that you can find in a bigger city, but still live in a small town community. It has that feel. So maybe that's not quite a tagline for it. That's a little too long, but I think that's absolutely true about this place. You've got the arts, you've got entertainment, you've got restaurants, you've got all of these things in this big river that adds, a whole nother element to it, but it doesn't feel like an overwhelming place. You can still, get involved and have a smaller town feel.
You're so right about that. I've always thought that, I'm not from the area originally, but like from the outside looking in and then finally living here, it is, I've always said, yeah, it's a small town feel with big city amenities. And I wholeheartedly believe that.
You said it in a much more concise way. We'll choose yours for the bumper sticker.
We'll work together and we'll make it work. It's good. But thank you so much, Monta. If you are interested in going to Festival of Trees, November 19th through 27th, get those dates right. It kicks off with the Quickstar Festival of Trees Parade, downtown Davenport, tons of fun. And always check out visitquadcities.com, our events calendar for everything happening in the community. Monta, thank you again.
Thanks for listening to QC, That's Where, a podcast powered by Visit Quad Cities. Text Visit QC to 38314 for insider events, activities, and updates sent straight to your phone. That's VISITQC, one word, to 38314. Message and data rates may apply.